as you probably already know that writing is actually almost like an ode to all the people you read or watched or so. I my growing up has been like in Calcutta where I watched a lot of like these sort of weepy 1950s Bengali films with like melancholic actors and even more melancholic actresses and even more melancholic actors, family feuds and this that, which are all now which will all later on I reread. So the same cultural artifacts that all of us grow up with, I started like rereading. I sort of even later on compared 1950s Bengali films as post-war Japanese films, mills shutting down and stuff like that. So that definitely had a very strong effect in the Bengali aesthetics of its movies of the 1950s. For me, reading was a source of pleasure. Then came Tintin, which kind of changed everything. Tintin became politically incorrect also, reading Tintin because it's a white man's understanding of the world. I mean, nothing has really changed. Everything I read that time was in Bengali. So Bengali detectives, Bengali ghost stories, but a lot of pulp literature. My mother, thankfully, saved me from getting into like intellectual sort of stuff which is a lot of the other side of Bengali literature is a lot of these sort of literary intellectual magazines, and the word atel comes from that, that sort of idea of a pseudo intellectual sort of. The medium of comics allows you to have many variable point of views playing around in a single space, whether it's a page or a book. So you can have a varied idea, like a Rashomon-like situation, where many conflicting opinions can actually shape an argument. And therefore, I think comics, because of its text, its image, the text also fragmented between dialogue and narration, the image also going sometimes absolutely almost against the text, has a diagrammatic almost, an emotional diagram of that argument, which is what I thought is good about comics, and there's no tyranny of linearity. Now, when you do it in cinema, Magnolia, there are many types of films but they become experimental films. They're not the norm. They are something someone is instilling in the form of film. Comics is naturally like that. You know why? Because tiny bit more democratic medium. You have to use your own imagination to fill up the gaps.
Yes.
I have to have you, otherwise the comics would not stand. If you are a thoughtless person, you cannot read that comics because you have to fill those things up. And the second advantage of comics is that, which film doesn't have, is that you can always go back and forth. So no matter how complex things are, you can always go back and say that, acha, this is how things have shaped. In novel, it is not possible to kind of always go back to find out okay, chapter 3 mein kya hua tha. And cinema is like a dhar 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 dhar. The director's ego or whatever, sorry, I used the wrong word, but instilled into how long you need to see what. The idea of reporting is primarily what I like doing. I mean, this is not what I started with, but over 20 or whatever, 25 years of working, the best way I can describe what I do is observation and reporting. Now, the reporting itself becomes unreliable to some, or surreal, or affected, because the reporting happens through me. So that's where my agency comes in, my own self comes in. But so I'm not sort of a direct opinion giver. So you wouldn't find me giving you my opinions about things so much, okay, what I think about things and what I think about how reality is. I keep my opinions, I don't maybe have any opinions, so I can't even say I keep my opinions to myself. Another thing that I don't particularly naturally get into is analysis. Maybe part of being Indian education system that they kill your analytical self. So I'm not also a very analytical person, analyze things. So I work with instinct mostly. So although I haven't read anything like Indian graphic novel recently, I have also not read much European graphic novels either. But I do have a feeling that good graphic novels are going to come from the south, from India, from Pakistan, from South Africa, from China, because the north, the global north, the west is kind of losing out on subjects. It's a very sterile world. The institutions are already built. People have relatively comfortable lives. There are concerns that they have to deal with, like for example migration, etc. But their understanding has always been from their point of view. They're not yet prepared to understand themselves through other point of views, which we as Indians have always had colonial literature written about us, so we know what other people. So they, and being like a very strong, deep culture which has affected all the other cultures. I'm talking European culture. They have a disadvantage of incorporating other people's voices, because there's a strange kind of a confidence which can be self-limiting. They are often incapable of, although they will have the knowledge and the language, but incapable of understanding the subtleties of other society.
Okay.
We have a slight advantage over that because we've always like West centric. We always go to the West. We get studied there. We read like half of your reading list is about like Western ideas and Western thoughts. So you're like kind of okay with moving between these two cultures. But they don't have that advantage. So that reflects in their comics as well. This is a very strong weakness that the publishing industry in Europe is trying to grapple with. But graphic novel has not gone through those maturing processes. It has not. It's primarily a white playing ground where there's a lot of autobiographical stuff and all that, and things that Western civilization have targeted interested in. So Muslim woman, for example, or African migrant, for example, things that they directly are interested in would find its way into their markets. Whatever comics does or does not do, it provides you with a great platform for like people who want to work with image and text and write picture books. Comics is a great platform to put out your complex thoughts. Not like your ideological beliefs only, but just the complexity of thoughts. It's a medium of doubt where you can put your doubt on paper, your uncertainty about certain things. And that is one of the most joyous reason to do comics, that आपको sanguine होना पड़ेगा, and at any given point of time you've got several levels open to you, you've got several windows open, you've got the image, text, background, sound. So you're staging your own play, you're making the stage, you're putting the actors together, and that is and you're not doing it like as a hierarchical kind of director sort of a thing, but you're doing at the level of people, because you need the same readers to understand what you're saying. So it's a dance, and that I think is the joy of comics, much more than whether it's going to become a huge industry, whether it's going to make you hugely famous. It's that you can clear your head into a paper which other people are going to read. That's such a big, like, lovely joyful thing to do.